It's so funny. I'll never forget. I had a prophecy that said by October 12th, you would know the ruling of God pertaining to your husband. It was so strange. Like, I was like, by October 12th. And on October 12th, one shattered my heart and one slid into my DM.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Becoming Her, and I am your host, Rebecca Whatley. Guys, this series has been unbelievable. The women of God that I have had the honor to converse with, to talk to, it has been life-changing. Are y'all ready to go to another level? Ladies, are y'all ready to go to another level? I have with me today the awesome, the wonderful, the powerful Apostle, Pastor Jae Jones.
Tina, come here. The Lord said, no more delay. No more delay and no more fear. No more delay and no more fear. He said, your process is now over, and it's time for you to receive your promise. I have not forgotten about you, said the Lord. I got 15 years that I owe you, says God. He says it's time for you to break through, break your mind. Hey, I see the warfare that's been on your mind. Ain't nobody told me nothing.
Guys, when I tell you that I'm a little bit emotional because I can't believe that I have this opportunity to interview this awesome woman of God. I have been following her ministry. I have been in her services. And when we started planning Becoming Her, I told Josh, I have got to interview her. I want to know her story. I want to know more about her. And guys, we have her today. We have Miss Jae Jones here today. And guys, guess what? We're going to talk. We're going to be real. We're going to keep it 100. We're going to talk, and it's going to be real talk, guys. Real talk about this journey of becoming her. So I hope y'all are ready. Guys, please help me welcome Pastor Apostle Jae Jones. Welcome, awesome woman of God. Like I was saying, I'm so honored to have you here with me. I'm so excited about knowing your journey. I think what was beautiful, I'm trying to see, I don't want to go too far. So, first of all, introduce yourself, ma'am. Introduce yourself to the people just in case they don't know who you are.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I'm so humbled to even be on this amazing project. Y'all don't even understand how, and the reason why I'm calling it a project because it's an assignment to be able to talk about the art of becoming. It's just so it's so needed in this hour, you know. I'm so humbled to even be able to be here, be able to share my story, because we are overcomers by our testimonies. And so our stories are important. And so I'm so humbled to be able to do that. I am Jae Jones officially. I'm a newlywed. I know, ring. I am a newlywed. But I was ordained a pastor in 2016. I went through what I call an awakening church hurt. I left the church and went on a journey. And in that journey, the Lord told me to come back. Come back to the assembly. Do not forsake his assembly. Do not forsake his people. And in coming back, God put me on this rehabilitation journey, is what I call it. I now say it's rehabilitation for the soul. Um, Teaching us real identity, and I went through that process. So I am known as the rehab chick, honey. I have toured, I have counseled. Like I said, I'm now a pastor for the last 2 years. I have written books. I have done it all. You name it, we have done it, and it's been all in the name of Jesus. And it's all about this process of rehabbing. So, like I said, I'm excited to talk about becoming, because my language, honey. I could do it all day long.
Pastor Jay, let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay,
I love to go back to the beginning because it has a lot to do with who we are today. It,
correct,
it kind of set things in pace, whether it was a good experience or a bad experience. Our childhood has a lot to do with who we become,
correct.
and but what I think of, what I love about, because I had a hard childhood. It was
Mhm.
not a good childhood. But what I've grown to realize is that even though you experience something traumatic as a child, you don't got to become a victim of that pain. You
That's right.
don't got to let that shape you, and you never get out of that bubble
That's
of
right.
pain. So let's go back to where it all started in the beginning. How was your childhood? How was it for Jae Jones as a child? How were you? How was the vibe, the energy around you?
Believe it or not, what you're seeing right now is a direct reflection of my childhood. I was always outgoing, always talkative,
Mm-hmm.
always stopping the show. Like, I'm coming in, it's me, I'm here. Like, it was always a thing for me, and it was just my normal nature. um,
Yeah.
a lot of people, I laugh about it because I was telling people I'm somewhat introverted, but I'm not. It's weird.
Yeah.
um,
Same.
it's just so weird because I can just go with the flow all day long, but I really, really, really shy away from the public, even though I was
Yeah.
really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Always been great at the public. But I mean, pretty much what you see today is kind of what you see from our childhood, but it did not come without its struggles. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that, I grew up in a single mother home. My father was not in my life. He was pretty much in my life, in and out, up until I was about 8 years old, and he went to prison. And I did not
Mm-hmm.
see him again until I was in my 20s, I believe. To
Wow.
my 20s. And that is a whole nother story for itself.
Yeah.
But I was that girl who grew up without a father. That did lead to daddy issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it led to
Mm-hmm.
daddy issues. It
Mm-hmm.
also led to this lack of identity in different places. I
Yeah.
later on, when you get saved and you start putting yourself through deliverance, you start seeing certain patterns that went with your life. And I noticed that one of the things that I felt was that everybody wants some of Jay until Jay shows them who Jay is. And then they
Wow.
don't want her anymore. And I didn't realize that they came from my father. My father asked my mother to have a child from him. He asked for me, and then he did not raise me. And he was with my mom for years. Like, he raised my siblings. My siblings are 10 and 12 years older than me. And so he raised my siblings. But when it got down to me, life happened, distractions happened. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. You could want me, you can ask for me, but then when I'm here, you leave me. That sent me through a lifetime of feeling like I could never show people who I really was. That's a lifetime of that. And I lived a lifetime of walking in perfectionism, afraid of who would leave me if they saw that I was flawed. I spent a lifetime doing that. I built all of my careers this way. I was a people pleaser. I had to please my mom. I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, being the perfect child, being that my two older siblings had children at a very young age. And so I had to do it perfect. I had a baby outside of wedlock, my oldest daughter. I had her out of wedlock. That forced me into this feeling of, oh my God, I gotta be perfect. And so then I'm putting this pressure on my then boyfriend, which turned husband, which is now ex-husband, that pressure on him to again because it needed to fit my perfect life. It had to fit. I had all the wallpaper. I mean, if you name it, your girl had it. I had the cute house. I was the first person in my family to purchase a house at a very young age. But 5, I had the house, I had the career, I had the cars, I had the perfect little marriage, and the cute 2 little children. It was the perfect example of what people would call the American dream, but it wasn't God's dream and it wasn't God's plan. And that's where my biggest awakening began to happen.
So, wow. The your dad not being there created this space of where I show up, but you didn't show up. So now I feel like I have to be this perfection in order to keep, was it in order to keep people around?
Yeah. I felt like um somewhere in me I began to feel like I had to like buy love,
Mm-hmm.
be perfect for love.
Mm-hmm.
So you woo friends this way, and
Oh.
like I mean, it was crazy when I go back into my childhood and think about these things because I mean, it was this thing showed up in every relationship I had in my life. It showed up in friendships, like all my platonic relationships. It showed up in romantic relationships. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
showed up, and so for me, it was like I just feel like I gotta put on and I gotta be
Yeah.
the best friend ever. And the crazy part is this makes you take stuff you wouldn't normally take.
Oh yes. Woo.
We become super passive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a lot. I was very naive about
Mm-hmm.
people. I was so afraid to let people go.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
just tolerated anything.
wow. Oh, I know exactly what that is. I've been there in my own life where I have no, my thing was, I'll say what my thing was. My thing was that I was everyone's trash can.
Oh, I talk about that all the time. Woo!
Pastor Jay. Everybody came to me, dumped their trash on me, and I digested. So now they done dropped their trash on me. They gone. They
Yeah,
feel better. They ain't worrying. And now I'm trying to fix something, digest something that's not even my
it's not even
responsibility.
yours.
Because I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know
Yes.
how to say I don't want to hear that. I can't do this. No, this makes me, it's too much for me. I did not know how to say stop.
Yeah. And it feels
So,
that way. It's like I was there for everybody, even though people
mhm,
didn't show up for me. But I
yeah,
felt like I had to show up and I had to
woo,
be the one with the answers and I
yeah,
had to be the one with the solutions. And it was just, oh my God, just unnecessary pressure,
yeah,
unnecessary weight that I didn't get free from until my early 30s.
yeah, yeah, same. Same. I didn't know nothing about boundaries. I did not know anything about how to put space between myself and others.
That's
I
right.
did not know how to put the in place, or just say I'm not okay and let someone know that
That's
and
right.
voice that. A lot of my friendships ended badly because I did not stand up for myself.
That's
I
right.
did not. hold no one responsible
Yeah.
or tell anyone how to treat me. So
That,
they just did whatever they want to do
that's
to
what.
me. And
And
then,
my problem was I was really good at faking it.
yeah.
I would have so
Woo-hoo!
much pain on the inside, but nobody would knew because I would show up with a smile. I was
Yeah.
a bubbly cheerleader who, I was here. I had it all. So to the
Yes.
people would think that I just had it all, but people didn't know that as time progressed, my mom ended up getting sick. She lost her job. I was at home trying to figure out where my next meal was going to come from as a teenager. Like my life got really crazy. My life went from being this really picture perfect, perfect life. My mom was a hard worker. Do you hear me? I mean, just an amazing woman. And then sickness struck her body. She could no longer work. And
Mm-hmm.
so to keep up, I mean, it was such an eye opener. I went from living a certain type of life to basically going straight to the ghetto. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was the rudest awakening. But
Yeah.
with that, it came all its pressures. This is when I learned to be a chameleon. I would go to
Mm-hmm.
school and they'd be like, oh, who's the little white girl?
Wow.
Proper. So then I had to adjust how I speak so that I wouldn't be picked on. So I knew how to turn it on and off. I knew how to be
Yeah.
a black girl, and then I knew how to be, real proper and professional. But why
Yes.
did I have to do that in order to fit in? I learned to be a chameleon and not give people the real me based on my childhood, and made so many poor decisions and connections based on it.
Yeah. Ooh, that's deep. That's heavy.
Yeah.
That is heavy. With me, with my childhood, I'm writing. I'm working on a book, but one thing that I with my childhood, I learned because of when I went through sexual abuse,
Mhm.
and because I was not asked, "Are you okay?" I then began to know that everyone else. Then my mental became, I don't matter, but everyone else matters.
Yeah,
Everyone else. So I cared so much about people, not
yeah,
about me,
yeah,
because no one said, "Hey, are you okay?"
right.
Because with everyone else, I was a liar.
Wow.
I was a liar. This wasn't true. This wasn't true. Even though everybody knew that what had happened, it was right there.
Yeah.
But I was the wrong. I was 4 or 5 year old girl.
Wow.
I never got was, are you okay? How do you feel? So it didn't matter to me. How I felt because of that childhood throughout my life was, Beck, you worry about you. You don't matter. You don't matter.
Wow.
Don't you dare think about you. Now, what's going on, girl? Oh,
Right.
I began carrying others until my 30s, where
Mhm.
I had to learn that I am a necessity.
Yes.
I am worthy of proper love. I am worthy of self-care. I am enough. When was that point in Jay's life where Jay was like, no, no, this something in me is not right. It ain't even talking about nobody else. God, I need to be delivered.
It was right. It was after my divorce, to be honest. Um, it's so funny because a part of me believed that my divorce was the answer. And the truth of the matter is, my divorce was my cover up. It was my cover up. When I got married, it was my answer to all of the crap I went through as a kid. It was my escape route. And it looked perfect. But as much as perfect as it looked, I have to be honest and say that my ex husband married a stranger. He did not know me. He didn't. He didn't know me. I didn't even know me at that time. I was reaching for things that was obtainable, but I cannot say it was things I desired. So I lived this life with this void on the inside.
Mhm. Mhm.
So in my marriage, I got saved. So I got filled. I grew
Mhm.
up born and raised Baptist. And then in my 20s, right before my son, right before I got pregnant with my son, I got filled with the Holy Ghost.
Okay.
Nothing about speaking in tongues, all that jazz. Knew nothing about
Yeah.
that. But Rebecca, I fell in love with God so much. So I had never felt anything like that in my life. And I needed it again and again and again and again. And I
Yeah.
threw myself at the mercy of God. But the more I threw myself at the mercy of Him, the more I began to see me,
Yeah. Yeah.
which you should, right? The more
Mhm.
to see me. And the more I began to see that the life I created was to cover up insecurities, it was to cover up this concept that I had in my mind. I was putting unrealistic expectations on my ex-husband. I needed him to be husband and father. And we
Yeah.
got very, very young. And so, it was just all these different things that I began to see about myself. So after the divorce, I went through a horrible depression. I mean, it was really, really bad. I faced suicide. I lost literally every single thing. That's a whole nother different topic for itself. But I
Wow.
lost every single thing, started over, sleeping on my mother's floor with my two children, with no job, no car, and maybe $20 to my name, if that. And it was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And the funny thing about it is, I was still going to church at that time. At that time, I was actually pastoring. I was actually pastoring at that time, not senior pastoring, but I was a campus pastor at that time. Really didn't know anything about it, to be honest. Still learning about who I am and learning my own gifts. And all this is happening in my life. All of this. And it wasn't until the day that I remember sitting in the bed and I was like, God, we have to do something here. I can't live like this. And the Lord began to tell me, you're going to have to rehab your life. That was that moment. And I was like, rehab my life? What do you mean, rehab my life? Like, what do you mean? And I used to flip houses with my ex husband. And so I instantly began to see myself as a house that needed to be remodeled, that I had good bones, I had good foundation. The structure, though, was slightly off from what it needed to be, to house the things that God wanted me to house. And so that's when I began to really begin to dig and do that research on the inside of me to see, how do I get out of this pit? I was in a horrible situationship. I mean, I just did all types of crazy stuff that I was just like, Lord, I gotta get out of here. It took time. That's the thing. Rehabbing, it takes and it took time. It took me to grow in wisdom, grow in stature and maturity, to even see myself, to see my faults. I think the first year and a half, I was blaming everybody else for where I was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I know all about that. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. So, Pastor Jay, from your childhood trauma to, how did you find your way into the church? How did you get in there and get, how did that, what was church a thing? You say you were raised Baptist.
Hmm.
You was in the Baptist church.
Hmm.
When was it discovered, when did you discover God has impregnated me with something
Woo!
unique?
Um, I now that didn't come, probably. It was right before the divorce that I knew that I had something.
Mm-hmm.
But the how I found my way into the church itself, again, born and raised Baptist, I went to a family church. My uncle was my pastor. Okay, so growing up in this church since the time, like since I was 4, that's all I knew. And
Mm-hmm.
a cousin of mine was visiting a non-denominational church and was like, "Man, you gotta come over here." And I was like, "Okay, I don't mind this, I'll go look." And I remember sitting in the back of the church, and a man of God was preaching at the time, and he was like, "You come to the front." And it was so funny because I was watching him prophesy. At the time, I didn't know what this was. I was watching him prophesy to everybody, lay hands on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching these people fall out, which I was super amazed at. So I
Yeah.
go up there and I'm like, because in your mind, you're like, well, why are everybody falling out? Like, what is
Yeah.
that? And he pulls me up there and he goes, "Woman of God, you're going to preach the gospel." My ignorant, worldly, rebellious self. It's so funny when I think about it. I literally do this, Rebecca. I'm like, who you talking to? He's like, you
Oh
don't.
my goodness.
And in my head, I'm thinking, no, I'm not. Do you not know who you talking to? First off, I just left the club. First
Yeah.
off, like I was there, clubs popping last night. First one at the bar, open tab. What do you mean?
Yes.
Gospel. Like, who's preaching? Okay.
Yeah.
And he laid his hands on me. And I remember this so vividly. He laid his hands on me. And I remember in my mind, I kept saying, "I'm not falling. I'm not falling." And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden I said, "Why am I falling?" And I laid on that floor for so long because my body just would not.
Jesus. Wow.
And so when I got up, finally, in my mind, I was like, "I'm not going back to that church." But
Yeah.
something kept saying, "Go back." So
Yes.
I will hide out in the back, like arms folded and everything. Because I felt like body language, like, "Don't talk to me. I'm only here just to, I'm spying out this spot. I need to figure out what happened to me because I don't know what happened.
Yes.
Sitting in the back of this church, and I would show up I think it was like a Wednesday night. I would go every Wednesday night. Probably did it for like a month and a half. I was becoming so obsessed.
Wow.
And I was just like watching how everybody was just filled and all these different things. And one night in the back of a church, this
Mm-hmm.
this girl got filled.
Wow.
Nobody touched me. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
said anything. The first time I spoke in tongues, Rebecca, I got so scared I stopped talking. I didn't know what was happening. Like I was like, I know I'm saying hallelujah, but my mouth is not saying that. And
Mm-hmm.
I was so analytical at that time. So I was like, this is not registering. I'm just gonna stop talking. I don't know what this is. It
Yes.
was that moment that I knew God was chasing me.
Yeah. Ooh.
I knew that God wanted me. And I
Jesus.
started having these moments when I began to remember all the times before that moment that I felt like God was chasing me. And I knew that I knew of him, but I did not know him. But this whole time since college, this amazing God been trying to get my attention. And now he finally got it. So it wasn't until getting pretty much to the end of my marriage. At that time, I hadn't preached like a whole lot. When you have a leader and your leader tells you this is in you, all these different things. And the truth is, you do it because they're saying it's in you, right? But you don't really see that for yourself. I was wrapped in another man's vision. I was wrapped in another man's vision. But at that time, I had not seen for myself what it would be. And I dipped and dabbed in like little projects. Like I would have spurts of inspiration, I guess you could say. And I dipped and dabbed in that. But I don't think it ever got like really serious to me until closer to the divorce. And I began to have all these dreams and all these visions of what I would do and who I would become. I would see myself on platforms with thousands of people in front of me and all these different things, and it would freak me out. Um, and as time progressed, again, I got one of my most biggest prophecies at my most lowest moment. And it was about my identity. It was literally, people were telling me the whole time I was pretty much done with life, that there is work for you to do, that God has something so precious, so tailored just for you to do. And I'll never forget, it was a time I had a vision. I was in prayer and I had this vision of these two mountains, and all these people were walking and they began to fall off the mountain. And I began to say, God, why are they falling? Why won't they just stop? Began to say to me that these are all of the people that are connected to you. And if you do not become the bridge to their next place, they will not make it over. This is how important it is for you to follow destiny. People are
Jesus.
waiting on you. And when I came out of that vision, and I keep in mind, I was, this is after the divorce, and suicidal depression. I was like, okay, God, teach me how to be her.
Yeah.
I don't know how to be,
Woo.
but if you teach me, because I don't know what it's like to talk and preach to thousands of, like, I wasn't a preacher. I didn't do this stuff, I just love Jesus. That was it, you know. And I began to say, Holy Spirit, you have to be my teacher. No one else can groom me. No one else can teach me. You have to teach me, because I can't Google me. I can't look me up. You're going to have to show me, because what you're showing me, I have not seen. Only you can tell me how to do this. And that's when I really had that big moment. It was over, I think I would probably say that it was over a couple of years, maybe like a year or two of just going through these in and out conversations with God. Like one minute I was for it, then the next minute I was like, I don't know, maybe did I hear God? I don't know. It was like this whole maybe year. I would probably say maybe from like 2015, 16 into maybe like 17. That was a 3-year process of like this awakening for me to really take it serious, to say, girl, God talking to you, and you got something on the inside of you that you got to do. So it took a process of time for me to grab it. It wasn't just like this one moment. It was like, okay, never mind. Okay, I don't know. Okay. That's crazy. Like, it was,
So, Pastor Jay, I want to know, how did you how did you become the pastor of where you are now? How did pastoralship fall? No, not just fall. How did what you are birthing now? You have birthed out, but it's so much more that's going on. But how did this start? From this girl, from this young lady who receives this call, you're in, you're out. Yes. No, I don't think so. How did you
man,
move from that place to like, okay, I am doing this? What was that like, that call? What was
I'm
that?
gonna be totally honest with you. Pastorship was very accidental. It
Really?
was so accidental, Rebecca. I was being mentored by my mom, my spiritual mom, and
Mm-hmm.
I love her so much. And I was just good being in the background. My mom at the time was just like, "Don't forsake the assembly, whatever you do." So I was just like, "All right, I'm just showing up to church. That's good enough, right? I ain't leaving. That's good."
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget. She would give me these little assignments. Like, oh, now that I really think about it, this woman saved my life. She would give me these little assignments, and
Mm-hmm.
in that, it began to pop my ear open to hear the things God wanted me to do. So it's like, it was almost what I call like little breadcrumbs, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Step by steps. So it started with completing the book. The
Mm-hmm.
book I wrote in 7 days, in one of my most lowest moments.
Whoa.
Yeah, 7 days. I was writing another book called The Blueprint, or I was actually writing another book called Rehab My Life. The book
Mm-hmm.
was like, you're doing it wrong. How can you rehab without having the blueprint first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I went back in and I had this whole moment. I was writing a chapter in a book called Check Your Connections.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, connections blew up in my face. I mean, every relationship was just going haywire. I wrote that book. After writing that book, it took 8 to 9 months of eating every word in that book, of becoming. I had to become a product of that book. And that
Oh, that's good.
I didn't have to become a product of that book. I had to become a product of that word.
Yes, I
Um,
get it.
that moved into me having a building brunch kind of thing, which I'm gonna bring back really soon.
Okay.
And like a building brunch. And it was so funny because I ended up moving in the gifts all accidentally. That led to me becoming an itinerant preacher. From that
Mm-hmm.
moment, my calendar shot open.
Whoa.
People started calling me to just kind of have these prayer moments, prayer gatherings. And from there, it was, I believe, 2019, 2020. Yeah, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Pandemic. Pandemic
Okay.
is what did it. Pandemic came in, and I mean, I was everywhere. I never experienced I never experienced the pandemic. I was gone all the time, like all the
Wow.
and it was, I used to host these things called
Mm-hmm.
shift night. By this time I have mentored, I have counseled. Actually, let me rewind. I did a virtual experience. And on the
Mm-hmm.
night that I went, I was so full. Cause see, at this time I'm Prophet Jay.
Okay.
And I like being Prophet Jay because Prophet Jay used to go preach and be like, all right, well, I released the word of the Lord. It's your problem now.
Yeah.
Like I like
Yeah.
Prophet Jay was such a fireball, okay, and a
Yes.
starter, okay. So you
Yes.
just go release the word of the Lord, and everything else is on you now. It's not on me. I'm done.
Yes.
I was in this mood with God, and on this live, I messed around and said, "For those of you who do not have a pastor, and you want me to be your pastor."
Oh my God. What?
And before that, I had people saying, "The Lord said you're my pastor." So I knew that, there was, I could feel it, but I was like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing this. And they was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm not going nowhere else until you start. Like, that's how people were so adamant. And I'm like, I'm not pastoring. I don't care what y'all do. So,
Yeah.
but it was definitely that I did a virtual experience, and I began to say that, and I mean, it was like 20 something people that night. It was so
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And then it was so funny because even after that, I was like, yeah, God, I don't know if I heard you right. I'm not doing it. I'm just gonna find these people pastors and we just go call it a day. So I let it be. That was like October.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had my next shift night about 6 months later. And Prophet Jay is just doing what she do best, rebuking the saints, all this other. I remember standing on that pulpit saying, "Obey God, obey God."
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord said to me, "Well, why won't you obey me?"
Yep. Sounds like it. Yep. Yes. Yes.
I'll
Yes,
never
ma'am.
forget it. I literally remember giving the mic to someone else. It's my event. Keep in mind, my event. But I don't play with God like that.
Right.
I said, here, someone else take this mic, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go get in good standings with the Lord. And I got on my place at that altar, and I said, Father, what do you want me to do? And
Yeah.
he says, I want you to stand up, and I want you to announce to these people that you are opening a church in this region. And I got up, I mean, shaking. I think they still got the footage. Shaking. Okay. Just quivering. Okay. Couldn't even barely could stand. And I announced to the entire congregation that I was opening a church and I would be a pastor in Houston, Texas. And it felt like a glass ceiling shattered over me. And it was a from that moment on, and it was so funny because the service was so hard trying to
Mm-hmm.
get that move going.
Yeah.
The moment I obeyed God, it's like the whole room shifted. And that day, people joined the ministry. We launched about 3 months later.
That is absolutely amazing. That is dope, to be honest. Like the fact that you were a single pastor at the time,
Yeah,
single woman
yeah,
pastor,
yeah,
and taking on that responsibility to stand firm in your call and
yes.
that responsibility. I commend you. I commend you. Like that it's just it when I saw you, it encouraged me
Wow.
to not be afraid to be me,
Yeah,
to accept the call and responsibility. And you also let me know that I am not alone.
yeah.
That I'm not the only woman that
Wow.
has a call to establish. That
Yes.
I'm not the only one woman that God is called to rehabilitate people,
Yeah,
to build people from the foundation up in him.
yeah,
And with my brother, I'm so honored that I get to do ministry with my brother.
yeah.
And it's been amazing. But you, woman of God, so encouraged me to launch
Oh, amen.
launch and
Wow.
be not afraid. Launch, girl, you are not alone. Look at her. Look at what she's doing. And
Yeah,
another part when that changed so much for me, when I saw that you were getting married.
yeah.
When I saw that and the time frame
Oh, yeah.
of how that happened, woman of God, what in the world happened? How did this come to be? Woman of God, how did this happen?
I am giving you exclusives, honey. We have
Yes.
it was another surprise. It was another surprise. I was basically in a situationship. I told you guys about that. I was going for years, in and out of it. Every time I thought it was over, we started it back up. I mean, it was just bananas, crazy, right? And it got to the point, Rebecca, where I was like, God, I ain't doing this no more. Meanwhile, I'm getting all these words and prophecies about the fact that I'm going to get married. And we tend to apply prophecy wrong. And the whole time I'm trying to apply it to my situationship. Mhm. Because I'm thinking, well, I got words that said he was gonna be my husband and blah 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 blah. And I'm trying to really apply it over here, not realizing that this whole situation was killing me. It was killing me. It was literally suffocating and stifling my anointing. And it would have put me in a place where I would have had to choose between being the apostle that God called me to be or being somebody's cute little first lady. Because that's what it would have done. It would have cost me. And I learned then that people will love the benefits of you, but don't like the responsibility of you. And yeah, that relationship is number honey. But I met my now husband. I met him the day my heart got officially shattered by this man.
What?
It's so funny. I'll never forget. I had a prophecy that said by October 12th, you would know the ruling of God pertaining your husband. It was so strange. Like I was like, by October 12th. And on October 12th, one shattered my heart and one slid into my DM.
Yes.
So when I met
Oh
him,
my God.
it was like, I don't feel like dating. I'm not into this. And he didn't approach me like that. He
Mm-hmm.
did not. The Lord gave him a prophetic word about my circumstance.
What?
He got a whole prophetic word about where I was. I had just had this huge emotional breakdown like the week before. I was just so done. I was out of it. And he sent me a word like about 9 something that night and was just like, "How are you?" And I was like, "How am I?" But you know, it's so funny. God is so strategic.
Yeah.
Because he messaged me when I was in a different state of mind, I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't even answered the way that I
Mm-mm.
did. But I literally just spilled out. I was like, I'm tired. I'm frustrated. I don't know what's going on with my life right now. I just got so much going on. Like, I am just talking. And he was like, wow. Like, okay. And of course, he knows because he's giving me this word.
Yeah.
Like, I got, he was like, that makes sense as to why God was talking to me about this and this and this. And he was telling me about how God was going to process a lot up out of me, a lot from my past. But in doing so, it was going to launch me into a different place in God and in my destiny and purpose. And so we just built a friendship.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So when he messaged you on October the 12th, did he know then? Did he know then that you did he was he just being obedient, or did he know this woman is something special?
Okay, so you have to hear him tell it. But so he said this, so it started the week before. He said
Mm-hmm.
that he had a dream. No, I'm sorry, let
Wow.
me not say that like that. He was sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
Said the Lord literally tapped him on his shoulder, and he said, "Go get her before
Oh
someone else does." And he saw my profile picture.
my, are you kidding?
Nope. He said the Lord tapped him on his shoulder and said, "Go get her before someone else does." He saw my profile picture. He said he got up to go to my profile picture. He had only been following my ministry for maybe 8 9 months. He had seen me prior to that, like December prior to. And so it was like he went to my profile picture. He was like he would look through all my pictures, all this stuff, and he said to himself, he was like, "This woman would never see me." And he was like, "But go get her for what?" And he was just
Yeah.
like, "Okay, Lord." And he just kind of left it alone. He responded
Uh-huh.
to it was Yom Kippur. That's how we remember the dates. It was Yom Kippur of last year. I was having a Yom Kippur service. He responded
Mm-hmm.
to the flyer and just sent like a fire emoji. And so
Mm-hmm.
a week later is when he came with the prophetic word. And
Mm-hmm.
still didn't know. He did not know that I was his wife until December 31st, actually.
When did you know that this guy could be something? Even did it didn't even come to your mind?
I was living in denial.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully,
Okay.
I was trying to be so cautious with it because there was definitely something there. We were two kindred. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I felt like our relationship, I mean, it was so divine. He needed me at that time. I needed him at that time. And I was like, I don't want to mess this up. I need to know if you're an assignment.
Yeah.
I want to fall in love with my assignment. So I was like, I need to be sure that this is okay to
Yeah.
cross this barrier. If not, then I want us to stay right here because in my mind it was this is my friend. And
Yeah.
I love my friend and I want my friend. I need my friend. Like
Yeah.
that's how I saw it. And it wasn't until December I had an assignment
Mm-hmm.
because he asked me before, did I see anything or did I think anything? And I think at
Of
that
him.
about him, and
Yeah.
I think at that time he was starting to feel it, um,
Mm-hmm.
but wasn't sure what it was yet. And I kind of shut
Wow.
it down. I was just like, I told him exactly what I just told you. Like, I want my friend. I don't want to mess up something that God is doing. If you're supposed to be my friend in my assignment, I don't want to make it something that it's not supposed to be.
Right.
So I was very cautious with them. I was very careful with them. Then knowing what I was coming out of too, I didn't want him to be my rebound guy. I didn't.
Yeah.
I was like, I still got too much going on, right? And this is how you
Mm-hmm.
so cancel yourself out of something, um and God is already equipping that person to handle you and the situation, you and the flaw. And
Yeah.
that's what I loved about our whole situation. But I was going out of town, and I had an assignment, but it was
Mm-hmm.
a day before the assignment. I got really, really sick. And I told my best friend, I was like, okay, I'm not going to go with you. I'm going to stay at home. And he was the first person I wanted to call. And
Oh.
he was the person I wanted to call. And he stayed on the phone with me the whole time and pretty much until I went to sleep. Um, just kind of coached me into feeling better. And the next day, my best friend was like, so you telling me you don't like him? Like, y'all talk all the time. Y'all like, she was like, girl, come on. Like, you don't like him. And I was like, I mean, I don't know. Like, she was like, okay, yeah, you ain't telling the truth. And so it was about a week or two after that that I finally was like, all right, you won me over. Let's just see
So
where
you said December the 31st, he knew you were his wife.
New Year's Eve.
December,
He crossed the New Year's with that information from God.
oh, to you.
He didn't say it to me. It was so funny. He had a New Year's Eve service. I did not.
Mm-hmm.
And he prayed with me before,
Mm-hmm.
which was something we always did, even as friends. He prayed with me before he went into service. And okay, I was like, okay, well, happy New Year. Like, I'll see you next year. And we hung up the phone, and he went into service. I didn't talk to him until pretty much the first. And he told me what happened in service. He didn't tell me everything. So he
Mm-hmm.
was telling me that the Lord had told him that he was going to be a husband, and that the Lord, he literally could feel the mantle of a husband wrapped around him. And he said that he had a vision, and in the vision, he saw a ring on his finger.
Uh-huh.
What he did not tell me until later on was that with that, our hands were clasped like this.
Yeah.
And he said, and he saw my face. And he got up from that vision with God saying, Jay Green is your wife.
Yeah.
And that was on the first. And from there, you can even tell though his whole methodology shifted. Like, everything changed from the moment he knew that that's what it was. He became
Yeah.
very intentional. And even with the Lord, learning to obey God in this we dated very differently, even down to I had never confessed to anybody that situationship and things I had endured in my dating relationship. And the Lord was like, tell him.
Yeah.
And I was like, tell him? That man will run for the hills if I tell him this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having to sit down and confess this to him. And his response to me was, I know. And I was like, what
Wow.
do you mean you know?
Oh
What
my God.
do you mean you know? And he was like, the Lord already showed it to me. And I was like, so it's not an issue? He was like, no. Never
And
have been. I have capacity for the things you've been through.
woo.
This could be a little something. And
Look, so y'all, how short a span was the marriage from when y'all made it official?
so officially dated December 25th was our
Mm-hmm.
dating date. We met for the first time in January, which was a month later, for
Oh
the
my God.
very first time. And then the second time we were in person together was for his birthday, which is the end of February. And then the
Wow.
third time we were together was the day I got engaged.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. It was a total of 3 months, a little over 3 months when I got engaged.
How did you feel? How did you feel knowing that God has that this is something that God is doing for you? And not only for you, but for your husband, that God is gracefully moving you guys
Yeah.
into marriage. And on third month, the third time visiting, you're engaged. How did you digest that? Jay, how did you do? What was
I
that,
am
man?
still digesting it,
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah.
Um, it is the proof of God's love for me. I never, I never thought that that could happen for me. And when it did, even down to it going viral, it wasn't the intention. That was never the intention. He didn't even know how he was going to propose. Like when he booked me to preach, we were not even dating. He booked me to preach back in like early November. We were not dating at the time. He didn't know that he was going to propose to me until I got on a plane leaving him in February. I was getting on a plane and the Lord told him, propose April 8th, like Easter. But it is the proof of God's love for me, and it is the unfailing evidence that He will do exactly what He said. God promised me marriage. He promised me a man after His heart. Because I told God, I'm locking my heart in yours, and the only person who can get it would have to go through you to get it. My husband grabbed my heart before I had permission to give it to him. And so I remember trying to figure out if I really loved him. And it's so funny because now, and I say this to him all the time, it's like, you fall in love with people with it being overly romanticized and all these different things. I love my husband very differently. It is so pure. I love him as a person, not the things he did. And the things he did was just a cherry on top, you know? It confirmed the person he was. And that was such a different experience for me, that someone would seek God on how to get me, but it was what I asked for. And most people would be like, oh, that's just so deep and wonderful, but it was the proof that God heard me. It was the proof. I remember saying, like, all right, God, the people would be like, what do you want in a man? And I'll be like, look, girl, all that other stuff can be worked on. What I need him to be more than anything is submitted and pliable by God. I don't need a perfect man. I need a pliable one. I need one that do not mind being clay in God's hand and being that means perfectly flawed in every way, but yet perfectly mandated and created and shaped for every single thing that God wants him to be. And because it's clay, anytime any type of refreshing hits it, it can be remolded and reshaped. It's not bound to one way or another because I'm always evolving in God. So someone who was just as pliable, that wouldn't lock me into being one version or another, grow with me. And that is what I prayed for. And that is my husband. You know, I could not have asked. It, it was what I asked for, and then the things I did not ask for. God is so, that whole love story, in all honesty, made me fall in love with God even at a deeper level. Because to know that He would really do that for me was just crazy. I was like, God, you really will orchestrate and write and authorize a person's love story. People thought it was crazy when I said I wanted that. Like I wanted that mantle mate. I wanted that Genesis effect. I'm not getting until you present me because I'm not doing it. And that's how this was. I was totally presented to this man and he identified who I was. I had a Genesis experience. I had a Genesis experience. And in that, it's the proof that you can walk so closely with God that he will guide every single step, even down to choosing your spouse. I tell people all the time, I married a perfect stranger. We didn't know. We don't. I'll say plural. We were together 6 months in different cities.
6 months in different cities.
Yes, ma'am.
It,
Met each other 5 times. No, 1, 2, 3, 4 times before we said I do.
wow. Do y'all hear that, guys? Oh my God.
5 times before we said I do.
To
And
me, that's a miracle.
it is. And
I
it
don't
is
care
a
what people say.
miracle.
That's a miracle.
It's a miracle to get together. It's a miracle to stay together.
Yeah.
We oftentimes laugh about it because we're like, "Ooh, this is a kingdom marriage." We've both been married before, divorced,
Mm-hmm.
things of that. We almost have the exact same story. So scary, like it's just really scary.
Yeah.
Um, but we're just like, it is what what worked in previous relationships is not going to work here.
Yeah.
We were not looking for this. We were just getting lost in God. And then God put it together. So the same, and we just talked about this, so funny. The same way we were put together is the only way we're going to be able to stay together because God orchestrated it. So the
Yeah.
way that I know my husband at his purest form is by knowing his maker and vice versa. And just like God taught this man how to pursue me and
Ooh.
love me, the same way he'll teach me to be a wife to
Yeah.
him to be a husband to me.
Yeah.
In a kingdom marriage, worldly principles,
Mm-hmm.
worldly rules don't apply.
Do y'all hear, do y'all hear this? This is pure wisdom. You should write a book. I don't know if you're doing a book on this, but you should most definitely, especially for kingdom marriage,
Yeah,
the wisdom you are giving right now through your journey, even like through your journey, you are seeing, wow, okay, this, oh, this ain't like that. This is different. You are learning.
yeah,
And what I'm hearing you say is things that need to be in a book, a manual.
yeah.
Like really, you and your husband both together. I really see it. And I feel it strong that you guys come together and your perspective and his perspective are different, but they work.
They work, absolutely. We had two different journeys. And it's so funny because God was talking to me and talking to him at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We were both getting information and intel, but getting it from God in our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until the engagement happened that we started meshing the stories.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you knew, but like I even bought my wedding dress before I was engaged.
What?
I bought my wedding dress a week before I got engaged.
What made you do that? Did you know?
No, the Holy Ghost. Well, I'm not gonna say I did not know. Okay, so let me rewind. The
Okay.
day that the Lord told him to propose on April 8th, I had a dream about it.
Did you?
I did, and he woke me up out of my sleep, which was so funny. So I had a dream, and I was like, "Why did I just dream that you proposed to me Easter weekend?" I was like, "But I couldn't see all the details because you woke me up." And he was like, he told me this after the fact, but he was like, God, no, you're not snitching after you just. Why you gonna tell me to marry her or propose to her, and then you gonna tell her when I'ma do it? It was so funny.
Oh my God.
And then I went on this 31-day fast and prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I did it live too, 31 days on Facebook. And normally when I do these, my team comes in with me. They take a couple of days, but this time the Lord was like, "You do it." You do
Mm-hmm.
31 days of prayer and fasting. So I did it from March 1st all the way through March 31st. And then after that, I was leaving to go to Chicago the week
Mm-hmm.
after. And the Lord woke me up one day and was like, "Go get a wedding dress." And I was like, "Say what?"
Wow.
Because at this time, now he's trying to throw me off, which is hilarious. We argued more in the month of March than we ever had. Like, and it was so weird because like one minute he's like, he's my boo, he's my bae, he's my Jay. I call him Jay, y'all. He's my Jay. And then I'm like, and then the next second he picking an argument. I'm like, what is wrong? What in the schizophrenic? But I
Oh goodness.
out that he's being coached by my best friend and some of my daughters because they like, yo, because I kept dreaming about things, I kept hearing things, I kept seeing things, and they was like, keep it out of the spirit realm. You too calm, like she gonna see it. The girl don't miss nothing, and she fasting, and she praying.
Yes.
So
Yes.
in certain things. I mean, I remember one time we got into such a big argument. I was like, "You hiding something, and I know you hiding something, but I'm not going to go look for it. I'm just going to let you hide it because I'm over trying to figure it out." And he called my best friend. And he was like, "Y'all, please do something with this girl because she know I'm hiding something."
Yeah.
But the day I went to go get my wedding dress was the day he went to pick up my ring. So we
Wow.
actually have two different experiences on two different days. So I was trying on my dream wedding dress, and I was with one of my senior daughters, my senior spiritual daughters, who's also my cousin, and she got a picture of him picking up the ring while I was trying on the dress.
What?
Yeah. Yep. So she knew the whole time. So I mean, that getting my dress was such an experience. It was the only place in Houston that had an appointment on that day, and the system didn't even let them know that they had an appointment. So when I walked in, they didn't even know anybody was supposed to be there. And I remember the lady was like, "When is your wedding day?" And I heard the Holy Ghost say, "Tell her June." And I said, "June?" And I know that, and I got married June 21st. um, and I was like, June? And she was just like, oh, she was like, wow, so soon. You're going to have to buy something off the rack. And she was like, this is what we have over here. And I was like, I don't like none of those. And because as soon as I came in, I saw the dress I wanted. And my daughter was like, yeah, but she likes that one over there. Can she just look at this one? Can she try this one on? And I remember putting it on. I put on like three other ones first because I knew that I would just love that one. But I remember the manager coming out of the back and she was like, which one does she like? And she was like that one. And she was like, oh, that's Vera Wayne. Vera Wayne does what she wants to do. And she was like, let me go see something. She goes to the back. She comes back and say, well, if she can fit the dress, then she can have that one. But she got to wait 30 days to come pick it up, which was kind of like mid-May. My wedding was June. So I go to, I try on the dress. And I mean, the dress was way cheaper than I thought it would be. And I'm still like, I don't really know if I should do this, should not get it, whatever, whatever. And then I went out to eat, trying to decipher if I should or shouldn't. And while I'm sitting at the table, people begin to send me money. And there were some, yep, there were some who knew what I was doing. In their subject line on Cash App, it said, say yes to the dress. And in others, it was a gift for Pastor Jay. So they created a secret inbox outside of me and was like, you guys, Pastor Jay is doing something by faith and we need to help her. I had no knowledge that this was what happening. And it was the exact amount of money that I needed to put the deposit on the dress and get the dress. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go tomorrow, whatever. And I got a text message about like an appointment, and I'm like, I've already had my appointment. Why are they saying I have an appointment like right now? And I was like, well, what time they close? And it was like an hour before they closed. It was like 8 minutes away. So I was like, great, let me just go. And as soon as I walked in, they had already had the contract ready for me. And when I went to pick up the dress, the lady was like, I could not wait until you got back here to tell you this. And I was like, okay, tell me what. And she was like, God must have really sent you here to get this dress. And I was like, why do you say that? And she was like, because the day, if you would have came a day later, this dress would have been $1,000 more than what you paid for it. She was like, my owners called and was like, did I give you a whole $1,500 off of the dress? And I was like, no, I gave it to her for what was in the system. So apparently there was like this glitch in the system that took $1,000 on this dress. It was crazy. So I bought my dress cheaper than what it was supposed to be. Yeah, and had I not obeyed God, I would have paid full price. But because I came back on that day, it paid for
Let
itself.
me ask you a question. Have you and your husband told y'all story?
We tell it in spurts, but we are ourselves. We've been talking a lot about starting a podcast in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking about what we call is the take two, which
Mm-hmm.
is the beauty of redemption and restoration in
Mm-hmm.
all areas, because we've all made mistakes.
Yeah.
We need to know that there is beauty in the second time around.
Yeah.
That was one of the things he said the day of our proposal, was that it
Mm-hmm.
would be better the second time around. And we knew that that was giving people hope. So
Yeah.
we were like, we need to give people hope that it is okay to have a do-over in life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking a lot about starting a podcast on that, and
Mm-hmm.
then we got a little few things in the works. I know that there is a line that we want to put together for that
Okay.
same concept of knowing about kingdom marriages, kingdom mandates, and just
I,
that hope of, again, you can have this. And then we've been lately talk. Well, it's been prophesied already, even when we were dating, that we
mm-hmm.
book. We did not know that that would happen. We
Mm-hmm.
were actually individually documenting what was happening, and neither one of us knew that we were documenting.
Wow.
So we got like interviews and videos. We have no idea why we were
Mm-hmm.
doing these. And even when we got together, like our first whole weekend together, it's all on film. We were doing
Yeah.
stopping and doing interviews about the moment. And so we have already said that we're more than sure that a book is going to come out of it. We're not sure when,
Mm-hmm.
but we are definitely talking about it, because again, we want it to be something that God is pushing. We want it to be, we want God's grace and His wind on it.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, as you see, there's nothing that we really do that's
Good.
not like, we don't move by like just good ideas.
Yeah.
Could have jumped on that momentum after the engagement, but it
Mm-hmm.
was like, y'all, we're not doing this to be famous. This is our life.
Yeah.
So this is how we live. And just so happens it was public. And
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like, okay, God, if you're gonna make us the kingdom billboard of, what kingdom families and,
Mm-hmm.
obeying you look like, and this image of really, really, really walking this thing out with you, then we need to do it according to the way you want it. And so
Yeah.
we humbly submitted our plans to the Lord and was like, okay, whatever you tell us to do, we'll do. And so that was
Good. Yeah.
that are coming out, hopefully, in the time. Well, I'm just going to say, in the timing of the Lord, it
Yeah.
will come out, because it's going to make a bigger impact, and that's what we want. We want
Yes.
impact over anything. I would impact over influence any day.
Mm-hmm.
Any day.
Mm-hmm. I think it's dope that we are guys realize that we are seeing Pastor Jae Jones
Mm-hmm.
become her,
Yeah.
her life. We are seeing a glimpse into her being made.
Yeah.
And this is so amazing. If you want to continue, again, make sure you go
Mhm.
follow. I just subscribe. I just put my email in here so that I can know what she's doing when she's doing something, so that I can be a part. So guys, please, please, please. This is amazing. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for you, your husband, your family. I'm so excited for the expansion.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure.
Yes, it's been a blessing. You blessed our